Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into. Yes, I am back, and I'm back talking about Impact Wrestling. So I'm going to talk about Bronson Reed, former NXT North American champion. Bronson Reed, could he be headed to Impact Wrestling in the near future? Well, to be honest with you, we kind of know that he is. He recently did an interview with Nick Hausman of Wrestling Inc., where there was this rumor, there's this report that Bronson Reed was booked for Bound for Glory last month, and of course he didn't show up. Now at the time, people were going, wait a minute, he was booked. This isn't a case of a Bray Wyatt or a Braun Strowman when there was like lots of reports and rumors they were going to show up and then they didn't show up. This was a case of he was booked for the show and then he was unbooked for the show. So what happened? Why did he suddenly not appear at the show? Well, he did an interview with Nick Hausman, and without saying that he had signed with Impact Wrestling, without saying that he was meant to appear at Bound for Glory, he essentially said that things were slightly on hold because there was some immigration green card stuff that was going on. Obviously, he's an Australian pro wrestler. It's a situation similar to what The Inspiration had when they left WWE. Of course, they were let go in April, and it took until like October before the situation was figured out when it comes to green cards, getting actually legal permission from immigration to work in the United States, to actually earn a paycheck in the United States. The Inspiration said on several occasions that whilst they've been doing stuff like their podcast, it was only until recently they could actually accept a paycheck because of it. Otherwise, they couldn't. They weren't legally allowed to work. And that was the same with Bronson Reed. He said, I can't do anything at the moment because legally I'm not allowed to because of immigration, because of the green card stuff. But he did say, look, it's getting sorted out. It's going to be sorted out very soon. He said this in October, right after Bound for Glory. He said it's going to be sorted out soon. November, keep an eye out because I will be appearing in places in November. And that's exactly what's happened because Bronson Reed appeared this past weekend in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The former Bronson Reed has made his New Japan Pro Wrestling debut. Now Reed is going under the name of Jonah. He appeared after Moose, the Impact World Champion. This is how it all ties back to Impact Wrestling. After Moose defeated Juice Robinson at the New Japan Pro Wrestling's Battle in the Valley event at the weekend. Now, he stared down Moose, who soon exited the ring. After Moose left, Reed splashed Robinson and attacked him. Now, Robinson's tag team partner David Finlay ran down to try and make the save, but Jonah also laid him out too. After the beatdown, Jonah cut a promo saying the shackles were finally off and it was time for the real violence to begin. He said he was New Japan Pro Wrestling's top dog. Now, of course, Bronson Reed had been part of the NXT brand since 2019 when he signed with the company. He's a former NXT North American champion. He won that title in May of this year, dropped it weeks later in June to Isaiah Swerve Scott. He then remained off of NXT television until July 27 when he lost to Adam Cole. But then, shockingly, he was released from his contract in August. This comes just weeks after he was doing dark matches before Raw and SmackDown, with most people expecting that he was going to be called up to either Raw or SmackDown. Reportedly, Vince McMahon was not a fan. So, Bronson Reed in New Japan Pro Wrestling is not a surprise, obviously. I said at the time that Bronson Reed, when he was released by WWE, that I feel like he fits perfectly. I know he has done some stuff in Japan before, prior to WWE. I think he was doing stuff in All Japan, I think, as well. So he fits perfectly. Big style, hard-hitting style, athletic style as well for a guy of his size. And also as well, this is how it ties back to Impact Wrestling, of course, is that he was booked for Bound for Glory. He's coming in. And I haven't seen reports that say Bronson Reed has signed on the dotted line with Impact Wrestling. We haven't seen that, but he's coming in. Like, it's safe to say he's coming in. Look at who he attacked on top of that. Not just the fact that he was booked for Bound for Glory. Look who he attacked when he appeared for New Japan Pro Wrestling at the weekend. He attacked the Impact World Champion Moose. So chances are he's going to come into Impact Wrestling and go after the Impact World Champion Moose. I don't know if he's going to be a heel or a babyface, considering he attacked two baby faces at the weekend in Juice Robinson and David Finlay, who of course are also appearing for Impact Wrestling. Yes, they're contracted to New Japan, although I know that Juice Robinson's contract is coming up soon, and he's actually said that he feels really comfortable in Impact Wrestling, so maybe he might actually sign a full-time deal, or at least a more exclusive deal with Impact Wrestling once his New Japan contract expires. Who knows what could happen there. Nevertheless, Bronson Reed, once you square off with the Impact World Champion, doesn't matter if it's not inside of an Impact Wrestling ring, there is something there. So Bronson Reed, for me, it's a matter of time before we see him inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. I think, of course, turning point is it this Sunday? Saturday, rather. I could certainly see that happening then. So keep an eye out, because I think Bronson Reed is going to be making his Impact Wrestling debut very, very soon. Obviously, there's lots of names swirling around when it comes to Impact right now, whether it's Bronson Reed, whether it is some of the other names that have just been released by WWE. We could see the likes of Karrion Kross maybe go back to Impact Wrestling. You can never know. You could see Keith Lee in Impact Wrestling, Frankie Monet, what a horrible name, Taya Valkyrie, rather, in Impact Wrestling. But one name we do know is going to be showing up very soon is Bronson Reed. So keep an eye out, because I think he's going to be arriving very soon. As to what his first feud will be, it still, to me, looks like Josh Alexander is in pursuit of the Impact World Championship. I think the hard-to-kill main event will still be Josh Alexander versus Moose in that Bound for Glory rematch. I think that's what they're building towards. But maybe Bronson Reed coming in, or Jonah coming in, will change plans for Impact Wrestling. Again, they had plans for him to show up at Bound for Glory. What those plans were, had he been legally able to appear at the event, we don't know. But Bronson Reed will be coming into Impact Wrestling very, very soon. And it's a great pickup. I don't think I ever really thought he was going to go to AEW, to be honest. And he still could. Just because he doesn't go to AEW immediately doesn't mean he's not going to go there in the future. But we know how crowded that AEW roster is. I'm sure he would love to go to AEW. In all of the interviews that I've seen him speak in, he's basically open to going anywhere. And why wouldn't he be? He's got a massive chip on his shoulder right now because he wants to prove WWE wrong. He wants to prove Vince McMahon specifically wrong, because let's face it, Vince watched him in a dark match and not only said, I don't want him in NXT, I don't want him in the company, which is a heavy... It's got to weigh on you. It absolutely has to weigh on you. And it depends how you take that. Obviously, he's taken it with I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to shove it down your throat, and I'm going to become the biggest star that I possibly can. Now, again, I think eventually one day he'll show up in AEW, but I think at the moment it's going to be between New Japan and Impact Wrestling. I think that's the destination for Jonah, but I'm excited, and I'm fascinated to see what he does when he does eventually land in Impact Wrestling. Speaking of Impact last week, I do want to talk about the ratings. I know. When we talk about ratings, it does kind of generate a bit of a negative response. But last week ratings rather were not great, because Thursday's taped Impact Wrestling drew 79,000 viewers on Access TV, according to Nielsen via WrestleNomics. Now, this is down significantly. It's down over 33% from the prior week's 118,000 viewers. Thursday's episode drew a 0.02 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is equal of last week's demo. This week's demo represents 25,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic. The last week's episode of Impact Wrestling did not rank in the cable top 150 for the 6th week in a row. Now, of course, as always at the moment, Impact had major competition from the NFL on cable and network television. The show drew the second lowest viewership ever for an episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV. That was behind the July 1st show, which drew 69,000 viewers. So we talk about this over and over again. I've spoken about this over and over again when we talk about Impact Wrestling here on the channel. The move to Thursdays is not good for Impact. I know traditionally that was the home, but now the move back to Thursdays because NXT moved to Tuesdays. The competition going up against an NFL game at this time of the year hurts them. The fact that they are taped in front of fans and the spoilers are out there hurts them. The fact that the product just doesn't feel very hot right now, and it doesn't feel like must-see television right now, it hurts them. And I don't want to dwell on this too much because I want to keep the videos relatively short for you guys. But, the more we talk about it, the more kind of the same responses and same kind of talking points come out of it of Impact needs to change something. And I think what they need to change, and a lot of people have said this, is you got to go live. Maybe it is more expensive, but we know, and this is kind of the sort of misconception, isn't it, about Impact Wrestling, is that they don't have money. They do. They do have money. Anthem has money, and they could go live. They could go live every single week. And I know they've been taping in Vegas, and before that they were taping in Nashville. I don't even know if really the location plays that much of a factor anymore. I think that for instance, if they just stayed in Nashville every week, Skyway Studios, but they were live and fans had to tune in to find out what was going to happen because they couldn't find out online, they couldn't read it 3 or 4 weeks prior when the show was actually taped, I do think the ratings would go up. It's because the evidence is there. Look, this week's or last week's show rather was down 38% from the same week in 2020. You remember that meant to be all of these programs were meant to be suffering during the pandemic because there were no fans in attendance. In reality, Impact Wrestling actually thrived in the pandemic because people had to tune in because spoilers weren't out there. And now that the crowds come back, the ratings have gone down. And I think that's because it's spoilers. For me, that has to be the reason. Obviously, as I mentioned, the move from Tuesdays to Thursdays has hurt them as well. So it's kind of a conglomeration of everything, isn't it, really? It's the fact that the spoilers are out there now and the move to Thursdays have meant greater competition. Of course, they were avoiding competition on the Tuesday because they didn't want to compete with NXT, which was the right call. But they also have the competition of the NFL games. And there's only ever going to be one winner there. Ask WWE, there's only ever going to be one winner there. And until they maybe go live or until if they have to remain taped, they get fans to sign NDAs or whatever that may be, they're going to continue to have this problem. And it's a shame because it felt like over 2020, they built up what felt like certainly a bit of momentum. And it feels like they're losing it right now, which is a shame. It really is. Speaking of this week's episode of Impact Wrestling, Minoru Suzuki versus Josh Alexander has been set for Impact Wrestling's Turning Point Go Home episode on Thursday. The Go Home episode of Impact Wrestling's Turning Point. The walking weapon Josh Alexander will try his luck against the King of Pro Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling's Minoru Suzuki. Now, both men's hostility began on the post-Bound for Glory episode of Impact 3 weeks ago. Alexander came out to confront Moose after he was robbed of the Impact World Championship. When Moose retreated out of the ring, Suzuki came down to the ring and both men started clubbing each other, causing security to pull them apart. Now, it will be the first time that these two have faced off in singles competition on Impact. They both took part in 6-man tag team match that saw Suzuki, Moose, and W. Morrissey pick up the victory over Alexander, Eddie Edwards, and Matt Cardona last week. This past week, Suzuki made mincemeat of Caleb with a K, and we are going to see the match the first time. Is it a first time ever match? They may have faced off on the Indies before, I'm not sure. You can let me know in the comment section below. Of course, I'm very excited and interested. I think two guys are just going to beat the hell out of each other. Again, my only complaint would be that we know this match has been coming for ages because it was taped weeks ago. And that just sums up the problem with Impact Wrestling right now, I suppose, isn't it? But will it draw a rating? I don't even know if the action at this point is really the issue when it comes to the ratings. And again, I know it's 2021, Owen. There are different ways to consume Impact Wrestling, whether it's social media, YouTube, whatever. I get it. But the numbers still do speak volumes. And I think certainly we talk about these free agents coming on the market, whether it's Strowman, Bray Wyatt, Karrion Kross, Keith Lee. I don't think Taya Valkyrie kind of falls into this one, but they would look at that. They would have to. They would look at that and be like, oh, would I really go back to Impact? The ratings aren't great, and maybe AEW does want me. It's something to consider. But look, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.